Good evening. Hope everyone can hear me okay. This is Tracy Shagnon. I am the 2016 JCI USA Nothing But Nets Program Manager. If for some reason you can't hear me, you should be able to send me a question or a chat, raise your hand in the broadcast, or if you'd like, you can send me an email. I do have my email open, nothingbutnets@usjcs.org. I do have that up on a tablet here, so if for some reason you have a question, certainly we'll have some time at the end, but I'm always willing to answer your follow-up questions, and I'll give you my email address. Again, it's nothingbutnets@usjcs.org. So thank you so very much for joining us today. Hope everyone is enjoying the first few days of spring. I'm in Wisconsin, and we may have 12 inches of snow tomorrow. So hopefully wherever you are, the weather will be much nicer. But thank you again for joining us. So what is Nothing But Nets? Nothing But Nets campaign is the largest global grassroots campaign to save lives by preventing malaria, which is the leading killer of children in sub-Saharan Africa. And JCI USA and JCI, just as a small background, has a wonderful relationship with the United Nations Foundation. And we do what we can to help with the Millennium Development Goals, which have changed within the last few years as one set of goals has changed into a new set of goals as time has gone on. And in 2008, JCI partnered with the United Nations Foundation and the Nothing But Nets campaign to contribute to achieving the UN Millennium Goal having to do with eradicating malaria. JCI members worldwide in local chapters, states, organizations like the United States, national organizations, which is mostly the rest of JCI, and the international levels, are all working together to craft projects to do both awareness for malaria in their communities, fundraise for the purchase and distribution of insecticide-treated nets. JCI USA has kind of taken a pilot program the last few years. I can speak on the international level, having served as a national vice president for JCI USA, and currently am on the committee for JCI for the UN Affairs and External Affairs Committee. I've gone to several World Congress conferences, and I can tell you that we are all united in this fight. And we have taken it to a new level where we are truly getting our government officials activated. We, as a young person's organization, need to get better at being more comfortable with talking to our people that we have elected, especially since this is an election year. It's very few people of my generation who possibly even know who is their congressperson or who is their senator or who is their representative. And one of these days, 20, 30 years down the road, our generation is going to be the one in those offices. So it would be a great idea for us to establish those relationships. So as we grow as individuals and put down roots in our communities, that we can establish those relationships. And when we see a need in our communities and in the world, we know exactly who to go to because we know those elected officials. So JCI USA has done a great job the last few years in bringing the fight up against malaria to Capitol Hill. Through our advocacy, fundraising, and by raising awareness, we are working to end malaria within our generation. So how do we save lives? You may be sitting in your comfortable home, and even though it's springtime, you don't see any mosquitoes in sight. But there are certainly people around the world that face that on a daily basis when they go to bed at night. So we can save lives here in the US and in JCI by raising awareness, not only among ourselves as members, as JCs, but truly bringing the cause to the US. Granted, malaria has been eradicated in the US for decades, but it still is very prevalent, and it is a completely preventable disease. And we can do it within our generation, and that's why it's important to become actively engaged in fighting malaria. Another way we can save lives is the advocacy. When we are an active citizen, which is truly one of the reasons why we joined JCI, we as members can truly empower ourselves and the citizens in our community across America to encourage members of Congress that we have elected to support and robustly fund the malaria prevention programs worldwide. Because it's not just one country that's fighting it, it's all of us that are affected by that. Fundraising. For those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with the Nothing But Nets program, by donating just $10 for an insecticide-treated bed net, you can save a life. In fact, you can actually save a family of 4 for up to 3 years when they take care of that net and cover their beds at night when they go to sleep. JCI Worldwide, since our involvement 8 years ago, has raised about $3.2 million. And can you imagine all of those lives that have been saved? Why is this important as U.S. citizens, as JCs in our local organization, in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, in Seattle, Washington, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in Baltimore, Maryland? Malaria is a disease transmitted by a mosquito bite. I live in Wisconsin. We have a joke that it could be our state bird because we have so many, but when we get bit by a mosquito, we don't get sick. And I have a niece who's very young. I can't imagine having her get sick by just being bit by an insect. A simple thing of an insecticide-treated bed net, like I said, can save a family of 4 for up to 3 years. Only $10, which is for us a couple of lattes at Starbucks. By raising awareness and funds, and by asking Congress to support malaria prevention worldwide, we can eradicate this disease in our generation. We have seen progress. We absolutely have seen progress, and that is why we have to continue this fight. When we started our involvement in Nothing But Nets in 2008, every 30 seconds a child died from malaria. In only 8 years, we have cut that in half to every minute a child in the world dies of malaria. So if we cut that in half in 8 years, I can just imagine what we can do in another 8 years and another 8 years. But hopefully we won't need 16 years to do this. Nothing But Nets 101. It's a global grassroots campaign to raise awareness and the funding to fight malaria. Provides everyone from students to CEOs, athletes, members of Congress, active citizens in the US. It gives us the opportunity to fight and have distributed over 7 million life-saving bed nets since Nothing But Nets was started. And truly what started it was Rick Riley, who is a known sports news person for Sports Illustrated. In his column, he challenged his readers to donate $10 to send a net, which led to the creation of the Nothing But Nets campaign. Over the years, Nothing But Nets has engaged hundreds of thousands of individuals to achieve the end of malaria deaths. JCI works very closely with Nothing But Nets. In the US, we have an extremely special relationship with them that we are proud of. We have a lot of diverse partners: the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, JCI International, the National Basketball Association, NBA Cares, the People of the United Methodist Church, and of course, Major League Soccer, just to name a few. Malaria is a disease caused by a parasite, which is, like I said, transmitted by a mosquito. Malaria, from the medieval Latin words, means bad air, and it causes 200 million illnesses each year and kills more than 600,000 people, mostly under the age of 5. Malaria is the leading killer of children in Africa. There are 10 new cases of malaria every second. Every 60 seconds, a child dies from the infection. 40% of our world population lives in the malaria endemic countries. Its treatment consumes nearly 40% of these countries' public health resources. In addition to the burden of local health care, malaria illnesses and the death costs approximately $12 billion per year in lost productivity. As if your child is sick, you want to be with your child, so you don't go to work. The Nothing But Nets campaign actually spends a lot of their time going to the refugee camps and places where people would not reach the public resources, making sure that the relief and treatment and prevention is available to everyone. Malaria is preventable and it's treatable. Infections can be prevented either by spraying indoors or sleeping under treated nets. Additionally, anti-malarial drugs and combination therapies, if they're caught early enough, can be used to treat malaria once it's contracted. Bed nets work by creating a protective barrier against malaria-carrying mosquitoes that bite at night. So for you girls, imagine your princess beds at night with the really fun things draped from the ceiling. That's exactly what those kids have, and they put it right over their beds and they're protected. The insecticide woven into the net makes the entire community safer, because it's not just by keeping the mosquitoes out so that you're bit. It's actually when those land on the net, then they ingest that insecticides treated portions of the net, and then they don't go anyplace else in the community. In the places where there's bed nets, has been known to reduce the transmissions to 90% in the high coverage rates. While $10 may not seem like much, the cost makes them out of reach for most of these people in the area survive on less than $1.50 a day. So one of the things that, to put it in perspective, if you think about it, we could be sending our children over to other countries for school trips, for missionary trips. We ourselves could be traveling to other opportunities that we have. Many of you could be in the construction business, and there is a lot of work and industry over in the African nations that are vital to our existence here in this world. And when those adults can't go to work because their children are sick, or even as American working in those areas, you contract malaria, that's lost productivity. That's lost revenue from that construction business. That is why everyone needs to be fighting for and preventing this disease. So how do you help eliminate malaria? You can use your voice. As JC members, this organization was started over 100 years ago simply to give young people a chance to become better people, to learn skills that maybe they wouldn't learn other places. And that's exactly what the Nothing But Nets program can help you do. As I will admit, before I really started getting involved with Nothing But Nets, I didn't really know how to contact my Congress people or my state representatives. I knew who they were because I saw them on TV, but how would I even write to them? This is a perfect example because through this program, we give you the tools. We can give you templates, we can give you help, we can give you suggestions. Not only us as Crystal Ramsey, who is our Director of Member Services at the office in St. Louis, but myself as Program Manager, your National Vice Presidents, and any of your Executive Committee are certainly here from you. And anyone at the Nothing But Nets Foundation, they are wonderful, wonderful people, and they are certainly here to answer any questions and give you just a little bit of direction on how to make this exciting for you and how to get your passion expressed to your members of Congress. This is extremely important. And members of Congress love hearing about what, as constituents, we are passionate about. So write a letter, make a phone call, use social media. I personally love this next one. Visit your U.S. Senator or Representative. As a chapter, visiting the in-district office, and truly what that is you would look to see where your Congress people in your state, your senators or representatives, they have a local office depending on where they are. So for example, I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Half hour south in Appleton is where one of my state Congress people has his office. So as a local chapter, you have the ability to call and make an appointment. Didn't know you could do that, did you? You can encourage them to support the President's Malaria Initiative and the Global Fund to fight AIDS, TB, and malaria, and ask them to join the Malaria Caucus. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about what those are a little bit later. But as young people, as I said before, it is extremely important for us to have the ability to feel comfortable making sure our voices are heard and making sure the people we elected are making a difference for what we want them to make a difference for. You can certainly donate $10. If each member in a chapter of 20 donated $10, the chapter could raise $200 and save at least 80 lives. That is phenomenal. As a local chapter, you can host a community fundraiser. Get your entire chapter or community involved in the fight against malaria. You can spread the buzz, because of course, we all hate that sound of a mosquito, right? But this is a great sound. We love to spread the buzz in the Nothing But Nets program. We want to raise awareness and share what you're doing to send nets and save lives across social media. We all live, we have to admit this, we all live that when we post something, you haven't really had a good day until you've had, 10, 20 likes and comments on what you posted? Admit it, you love getting that. I know I do. So share a tweet, post a video, or write a blog. The sky is the limit. Get your friends involved. Make your friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anyone who is willing to listen. Make them aware how important their voice is and their actions are in fighting against malaria. Get them involved in the 3 key things: fundraising, advocacy, and awareness. So advocacy, let's start with that. When I first started hearing about Nothing But Nets, I will admit, that one made me a little nervous. I'll tell you a story here. When I was a national vice president, we had a training. We went to Washington, D.C. for our national summit, and Nothing But Nets did a session for us, a little seminar for a few hours. They gave us all the great information and about how we could really start the pilot program that I was talking about. This was really kind of the start of everything. And so they came prepared because they're very, very smart. They knew who was in the room. And so they handed us a sheet of paper and they said, here is the information of your 2 senators and your representative from where you live in your state. So up on the screen in the classroom there, they put a great, quick, concise message of what to say when you called your government officials. And then they gave us the switchboard number to the U.S. Capitol building. They said, here's the switchboard number. We are going to help you through it. We are going to get you past that fear of cold calling someone and being all nervous, because if we're nervous about something, we tend not to want to do it. It's just like recruiting new members. We have that fear because we may do it wrong, so we just don't do it. They helped us through it. They said, you know what? We're just going to give you a half hour. We'll be in the room. Here's the stuff on the board. We want you to call them, have it be really quick, a minute or 2. The staffers are there specifically to answer the call, take the message, and then they will pass it on to the staffer who deals with that area and that issue. I can tell you I have never shook so hard in my chair going, oh my goodness. But I can tell you when I did it, and it wasn't scary because the staffer was so nice. I felt extremely empowered that I just made my voice heard. That is the great thing about this program. It can get you over the fear of trying to explain something, and just know that when you're passionate about something like we are about JCs, about JCI, about what we do in our community, the more we talk about it, the more our passion and our story about why we do these things will come out. And that's what the U.S. government needs to hear. And that's where the advocacy program comes in. So U.S. government is critical because the world does look to us as a major leadership role in preventing malaria. So we need to make sure our elected officials in Congress know that we need to support this work and encourage them to fund the life-saving programs like the President's Malaria Initiative and the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria. With a strong U.S. leadership and funding, we can certainly work to end the malaria deaths and eradicate the disease entirely. As members in JCI and as JCs, we know that we create positive change, sustainable, lasting change in ourselves when we grow as leaders and as people, and we make positive change in the world around us. By participating in advocacy, you are joining a movement of champions around the U.S. who are working to improve the world and support the effort to save lives. We, as individuals and as people, have the power to educate and urge our members of Congress to do their part in this fight. So why is it important? Malaria is completely treatable. That is why this is important. It's not something that we are still working to solve. It's not something that we have no idea where it comes from. We know where it comes from. We know how to treat it. We know how to prevent it. And we have made great strides. Just like in everything else, we want to hear the positive. And especially for our leaders in Congress, they like to have a win. They like to see the positive things. They like to move forward and be part of something that is going to make a difference. So if we want to end malaria in our generation, we can't just do it as JCs. We need everyone aware of it and fighting against it. To sustain the gains that we've made, we have to make sure our government knows of two very important partners. The President's Malaria Initiative was established in 2005 by President George W. Bush. And they support proven prevention and treatment methods, and they have distributed over 62 million bed nets. And you can certainly reach out if you have want more information about that. There is the website on the slide there. The Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, or the Global Fund for short, was started in 2002, and it has distributed more than 200 million nets. It has the main fundraising moneymaker for world governments, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations to stop HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria. And there's certainly more information about the Global Fund there. So how do you engage your members of Congress? I'm not going to pause the webinar and say, here's your information, although that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? But they're probably not there, and their staffers have probably gone home for the evening. So I have given you the number right there. Wouldn't it be cool just in a casual conversation with someone going, oh, well, you know, the last time I called the U.S. Capitol and talked to my senator, we talked about this. Now, we're probably not going to talk to your senator directly on the phone, but by calling the congressional office, it is very effective and is a quick way to ensure that your members of Congress know what issues matter to you. As I said in my story of calling a few years ago for the first time, they have staff that answer the phone, they read the letters, and they look through the emails. You can reach your member of Congress by calling the Capitol switchboard. And I can admit, it's pretty fun to just go, oh, well, let me look through my contacts. Oh, no, wait, that's not the number. That's the number for the U.S. Capitol. Why do you have the U.S. Capitol number in your phone? Oh, well, that's when I call in and tell them what I'm passionate about. And I tell them about the JCs, and I tell them what I'm doing and why they should be passionate about these issues as well. That, maybe I'm a little nerdy. I think that's pretty fun. You can also write a letter to your member of Congress. Writing a personal letter to your member of Congress is just as important as a phone call. In a phone call, they can hear your passion in your voice. In a letter, you can tell them your story. You can invoke an image by the words on the page. Specify your constituent and tell them why you should feel they need to continue the support for the President's Malaria Initiative and the Global Fund. You can ask them to also join the Malaria Caucus. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives have Malaria Caucus. That truly is a caucus that they can belong to that's bipartisan, and they talk about the prevention. They talk about the funding that's needed. So you can certainly ask them to join that or explore looking into that. You can certainly go into the usjcs.org website and log in as a member. When you go to JC Info and then the library section, when you scroll down to the program section, there's templates, there's thank you cards, there is talking points for the Nothing But Nets program. There's flyers. I can tell you there are also, as a point of reference, some great flyers that talk about how to explain what the JCs are, what we do as members. Because the important thing to remember, absolutely, is yes, we are passionate about making a difference with this specific program, and that's why you're calling. But you should absolutely be introducing yourself as a member of your local chapter, your state, and the USJCs. Because we don't want to be the best kept secret, as President Lawrence says. We want everyone to know the great things that we're doing and for them to want to be members and join with us in doing those great things. So another way that you can engage members of Congress is to schedule a meeting. And I can tell you, it is a lot easier than you think. And if you're nervous at all, past President Crystal Ramsey Dice, who is our Director of Member Services, she will absolutely schedule the meeting for you. She'll contact the office. She'll work with your schedule. She'll work with their schedule. She will do it for you. You just need to show up and give them the great information about your chapter, what you're doing, and why you're passionate about fighting malaria. So when you schedule those, you can also go on your own to house.gov and senate.gov, and you can find the contact information for your senators and your House of Representatives for your state. You can call or send an email and request a meeting in their district office. And as I said, there's her name, Crystal Ramsey Dice, so you can just let her know and she can schedule the meeting as well. Another great way, and members of Congress love this, they love to meet their constituents. They love to get out in the community and make sure that they're listening to the people who elected them. So they want to know what's going on. They want to know if you have an event going on. They may not be able to come simply because Congress might be in session, but you can absolutely have a staff person be a representative of the office. Sometimes that representative, that staff person, is JCH. How wonderful would it be for their eyes to be opened of what a great organization we are, and maybe you'll get a member out of it. That will be awesome. When you build that relationship with the office, you will get your message back to the member of Congress. Because truly, they listen to their staff. So how do you call a member of Congress? You want to tell them why you're calling. You want to vocalize your support in ending malaria deaths. In these next couple slides, feel free to, if you want the PowerPoint later or jot down some notes, say it verbatim. I don't mind. A lot of this was directly from the Nothing But Nets the talking point. So if that helps you practice it, by all means, absolutely use this. The purpose of the call is to tell your representative that you're passionate about preventing the spread of malaria by sending life-saving bed nets to sub-Saharan Africa. It's also important that you as a constituent voice your support for these issues to your representatives in Washington so they feel supported in their decisions to aid malaria prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. So when you call, you simply say, "Hi, I'd like to leave a message for Tammy Baldwin." Sometimes you might get a voicemail, sometimes you might get a staffer, and they'll take your name. Make sure you give them your title, if you're local chapter president, if you're membership director, if you're a local member. Make sure they know that you're from JCI and your local chapter. They'll probably ask for your phone number and address just as a follow-up. But what you can simply say is, "I would like to see Ms. Baldwin support the malaria prevention, diagnosis, and treatment efforts and advocate for fully funding the President's Malaria Initiative and Global Fund." Now they'll probably ask you to repeat that so they can write it down, but you want to maybe give them a little bit of a story of why you feel you're passionate about that. Say you have a cousin who serves in the National Guard like I do, and he's been to Iraq and he's been to Afghanistan. I truly would not like him to see him come home with malaria simply because this completely preventable disease has not been eradicated worldwide yet. So ask them if they're a member of the malaria caucus, and if they are, absolutely thank them. The staffer may or may not know, but you can certainly go and find on the government websites, even Wikipedia. I'll admit, I think I looked, one of my representatives, I looked at Wikipedia. And it should give you a list of who is on the caucus and who's not. If they're not, absolutely urge them to join. And like I said, you can certainly go to our website when you log in as a member, but if you would like some more outlines of the key advocacy talking points, you can certainly visit the website there, nothingbutnets.net/learn/what-is-malaria. So if some of you maybe still are a little bit shaky on maybe calling somebody over the phone, because I will admit it's not for everybody, then write them a letter. Tell them why you're writing. Specify your constituent and tell the member how you feel. You absolutely want to make the ask. Just like when you're talking about how awesome JCI is to a community member or somebody who's not a member yet, you should ask them to join. So here, we want to ask them to continue to support malaria prevention, diagnosis, and treatment efforts by funding the President's Malaria Initiative and Global Fund. See, that same sentence keeps popping up. So hopefully you'll remember it. Depending on the time of year, Nothing But Nets will actually provide you with a specific fundraising request. 2 years ago, when I was a national vice president, 3 years ago actually now, and then last year when I was national chaplain, we had the Engage 500 program. We had a couple of times last year where everyone who was a JC who could called and left a message. We gave you kind of the script to use, and then you tweeted it. You put it on Facebook that you just made your voice heard by doing these things. Nothing But Nets actually, for one of them, gave us the specific bill. So it was like bill resolution something 2.5, something like that. So sometimes Nothing But Nets will actually give you that funding request, and your members of Congress and the staffers will write that down because that's important for them to know. So when that bill or resolution is on the docket, that it flags in their memory that they know they need to pay attention and that they need to make sure your voice is heard when that discussion is on the floor. So absolutely, just like on a phone call, state who you are, list your credentials, name, address, occupation, state you're a member of JCI and you support the Nothing But Nets campaign. Briefly explain the campaign, and if you do want a response back, you have to include your name and address, even when you're using email. Personalize your message. This will generate more attention from the office than an impersonal letter. You just have the same thing, insert congressperson's name here. They're going to skim it, just like when you're job interviewing and they're looking at your resume. They're going to skim it, and if nothing grabs their attention like a personal story, then they might not pass it on fast enough to the congressperson. So they want to hear your stories, not just the facts and figures. And by all means, absolutely, it's a must for phone calls and writing. Ask, first of all, but please be courteous. I can't imagine anyone in our organization having a bad day and taking it out on somebody else, but we're all human. So just be courteous be to the point, be concise, be respectful, because they certainly have been elected to those positions, and we do need to give them the chance to get our message across. And for letter writing, make sure it's only one page, otherwise it gets a little too lengthy for them to go through. So what do you say? For letter writing, or for calling, or for a in-district meeting, top 3 statements. Every 60 seconds, a child dies from malaria. Malaria is easily prevented through use of a simple bed net. Investments in the President's Malaria Initiative and the Global Fund have proven results. And so just like that first one, every 60 seconds a child dies from malaria, you can state with confidence that when you invest and make sure we fully fund those 2 initiatives, then we are far more advanced from where we were 8 years ago, because it used to be every 30 seconds a child dies. So imagine with your help, Mr. Congressperson or Ms. House of Representative, you could help us see it be eradicated within our lifetime. Tell them you're writing or calling because you're a constituent and that you feel strongly about the importance of the U.S. leadership on the issue of ending malaria deaths. Don't forget to tell them you're a JC and make the ask. Fundraising. Fundraising is definitely important as well. Set a goal with your chapter. You plus your members times $10 a net equals nets, and that equals saved lives around the world. Create a team raiser page. Now, I will admit I am not the best with social media, so this is a great opportunity for you to find those great members who have those skills, who are so good, and you know them because they're always posting the really fun things on their Facebook pages. Ask them to help, and you say, I really don't know how to do this, but I have this idea and I need you. Could you help me? Everyone wants to feel wanted and needed. So that's how you can help get somebody else on board and get them activated. Host a fundraiser. Use your own network as a starting place. Do you know somebody who owns or works at a restaurant? They can possibly donate space or food for a dinner event. Do you have a lot of athletes in your area? It's springtime. I know it's March Madness, so you could always do something with that. But what about a 3-on-3 soccer tournament? Or have the Police Against Fire hockey game. Anything that has a net, you can use that as a visualization excuse me, to represent the net. You can have people donate to participate. JCI members have a lot of great resources and talents at our fingertips. So make sure you're asking them for items to donate for an auction or a raffle, just as another idea. There is no one-size-fits-all to fundraising, so be creative. And if you're not creative, we have tons of ideas. We have a list of all the states that let us know, so it's certainly important when you have an event or a fundraising thing that you do, absolutely let us know so that maybe you move on from the organization for various reasons and somebody says, hey, didn't we do an event? Oh, I don't remember what that is. We do have a list, for example, from last year of events, and we'd be happy to give you a couple ideas from that. And it might even be possible you can reach out to that chapter, and they should have a chairman planning guide, which would help you facilitate that event and not have to come up with something by scratch. So you could do a fashion show, dinners, you could do walks, you can do runs, you can do a lacrosse tournament. Involve your community and involve children. Children are wonderful. They are so innocent and so sweet, and they want to make a difference. They don't care about social and economic things. They care about the fact that somebody they know who is the same age as them in another place in the world could be sick right now just because they were bitten by a mosquito. And they have no problem with saying, that's not right, we need to change it, and I am going to change it, so I need your help doing it. So go to the schools, do a classroom fundraiser. There are wonderful things that you can do, especially with children. And absolutely don't be afraid to ask. The best way to get someone to donate is to ask, whether it's for volunteers, materials, or other resources that you may need. So get inspired. Are you inspired yet? I'm inspired just doing this webinar. I'm all fired up. So host a run or a walk. For example, the Brainerd JCs in Minnesota, they incorporated Nothing But Nets into their annual health expo and 5K run walk and raised more than $7,000 for bed nets. It's springtime. We all have that cabin fever. This would be a great way to get outside and have a great participation in this program as well. Sell an item. Members in North Miami sold branded teddy bears with their events and raised $1,000. They were limited sales and special occasions. Or you can even just set aside a percentage of the sales, so it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. We've had two past presidents, IPP Travis from Minnesota and Crystal, who their children came up with two great ideas. So Travis's daughters sold Millennium Development Gold inspired bracelets for $20, and they raised $1,700. And his two little girls got to go with him to Madagascar, which is that island where the lemurs are, to see them giving children and families the bed nets and to actually meet the people. Crystal's son, Aaron, was the top fundraiser last year with his dog tags and other various ideas that he came up with. And he and Crystal just got back maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and they had a wonderful experience and truly got to see the lives that they were impacting, which is phenomenal. Another thing that you could do, donate for your birthday. JCs around the world donate their birthdays, collect donations instead of gifts. So if anyone's heard of CrowdRaise, which again, I'm not a technical person, I think it's great. I don't really understand how it works, so Crystal will be able to help us with that. But it is a great tool to track your donations and collect your donations online so that you can reach people far and wide. So we have a couple things here that we have upcoming for the 2016 national team. So we are doing a mosquito marathon. President Lawrence has admitted, and I'm right with him there, that we are not runners. Running is absolutely great. That's wonderful, but we don't run. We love to walk though. So we have come up with a walkathon. So individual members and the community can get involved and participate. So we want you to get people to pledge your miles. There's a variety of different ways there, and you can do it however you'd like. But we want you to track from April 25th, which is World Malaria Day, to August 20th, which is World Mosquito Day, what you've walked and what you've raised. And so we do have a finalization of some of those fine details yet. So certainly contact me if you're interested in signing up for that, and we will have a flyer out by the end of the month with more information of how you can register with JCI USA so that we can kind of keep track with you. And it's kind of, you do it and we'll help you with it. So it's really easy for you. Some other chapter fundraiser ideas is using a basketball tournament or volleyball tournament, soccer tournament. It's a little out of season for hockey, but that's certainly something that you can do in the fall. Or if you're in a really big hockey area, maybe you can start planning something now that you'll be able to do at the beginning of the year, January or February. You can do a kickball tournament. Get involved with the Go Kickball program that is a partner with JCI USA. That would be a great thing to mesh the two together. Do a raffle. Do a rock, paper, scissors tournament. Have a car wash. Coordinate with a local restaurant for a JC night. You can do a bake sale. You can do a duck race. And you could do food sales like brat fries at a local grocery store. One of the most important things, I alluded to it before, President Lawrence does not want us to feel like we are the best kept secret in the US and in the world right now. So for everything that your chapter does and everything that you do with the Nothing But Nets program, events or things like that, reach out to the media. We've given you some tips here, which is exactly the same as calling your member of Congress and writing to them. But you could make sure that your voice is heard. You can write a letter to an editor, or you can do an op-ed, which has a greater context and encouragement. And if you're not sure what that is or how to do it, we will help you for it. You can also send that information to info@nothingbutnets.net, and the great staff at the Nothing But Nets Foundation will make sure that it goes to the right people. Some of the things to keep in mind: be brief, stick to one message. If you're responding to a recent newsletter article, a past letter, a news event, make sure you reference it by the date and the headline. Follow with a background sentence or two. Respect the position of of the issue's opponent, if there is one. Make sure you include your name, address, email, and phone number, and that you're a member of JCI. And remember, if you are representing your local chapter, please make sure that you're being respectful, because that image and that comment could reflect onto your chapter as well. So you want to make sure that you're always putting your best foot forward. And if you're not quite sure how to phrase something, read it out loud, have somebody help you with it. You can certainly ask for help. That's not a problem. Everyone would love to help you out. Make sure, though, make sure that you've checked the specific policies for submissions, because you want to make sure that it has the best chance for publication. And if you do get something published, absolutely let us know via social media or an email. We want to celebrate that your voice was heard in this important endeavor. So if you want to write a press release for an event, when your Nothing But Nets event is planned, let people know about it. So you want to write a press release. If you're not quite sure how to do it, you can check the website for instructions. And then if you're writing a release, make sure you highlight who, what, when, where, and why. Make sure the reporters get the basics up front. Make sure they know the topic and the person or the purpose. Make sure they know the location and any RSVP information, and the date and the time is vital. So here are some helpful tips for media outreach. Make sure you give them at least 1 to 2 week notice for your event. Send out the alert to select reporters covering global health or local journalists that might be interested. Provide contact information for reporters to do a follow-up. Follow up with reporters as the day of the event approaches by phone. Make sure you monitor the media interest. Compile a list of the reporters who have expressed interest. Make note of any interview requests that they have. Designate one contact from your chapter or from your event that the media can reach out to on that day of the event. After the event, it is important to track and print any online articles or videos of any sort of media coverage that that event has had. Social media. There is a great way to spread the buzz about malaria called social media. So here's some of the ways that you can spread the buzz. Twitter. I will admit I'm not that familiar with Twitter, but lots of people love it, and I like how short it is though. So here's just a couple things that you can use an example that have the hashtag in it. Hashtag BuzzTour. You can have hashtag spread the buzz, hashtag end malaria. So certainly if you want some of these ideas, you can go back and look at the webinar presentation, or I'd be happy to send you that. Nothing But Net should also have some of those on their website. Facebook. I know, I'm a little old school. I like Facebook better. But just as a couple things, you could use a couple of those quick things to use anytime your MVP or President Lawrence or Crystal or myself put something out there that we find that Nothing But Nets has given us, or if they mention something on CNN, then feel free to share that and put your own comment about why you think this is important or how great it is. Currently, we are on the BuzzTour 4.0, so sorry about that. That was a little typo in there. But make sure that when you have events, you're putting it on social media before, during, and after. I did want to make sure that everyone is aware of the National Summit. The National Summit is going to be in June the 13th and 14th. It is a Monday to a Tuesday. It's a short event, but that is when we get partners in the private sector and also partners like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other advocates who are working with same goals that JCI has. So a couple of the focus topics that we're going to have this year: prioritize the rights and needs of girls and women, build on the momentum of climate action, health and wellness, and that's just to name a few. The National Summit truly has progressed from our governmental affairs leadership program, where we learn the same thing. We usually pick a topic. The Nothing But Nets Foundation actually helps us facilitate this event. And Tuesday afternoon, they will help us schedule meetings with our Congress people or their main staffers so that we can actually go to Capitol Hill, have meetings with them, take pictures, tweet it, Facebook it. So you have a chance to sit down with your Congress people. And I have had it happen several times where we were going to meet with a staffer when they found out that I was in the group because that particular congressperson was from my area. We met with that House of Representative member. He wanted to hear us because I was his constituent. So we kind of got upgraded and we had somebody from the Nothing But Nets Foundation staff with us, and they said, wow, that's the first time that we've ever had a congressperson or do that with us. It's so great that you were able to actually meet with them. We usually meet with a staffer. So it is really possible that you could be meeting that person, and what a great network that you can pull that out of for your other chapter events. And by all means, when you're there on Capitol Hill, Nothing But Nets has gotten us into the door, but you should be talking about JCI. what your chapter does and what your local chapter and community is doing to create sustainable change. So another quick thing that we just found out about is a Nothing But Nets Championship Challenge. It's called Cover Your Community. And I do have some flyers, so feel free to email the nothingbutnets@usjcs.org and I can send you the flyers. But what that is March 25th through World Malaria Day 2016, which is April 25th. You are going to engage your network to raise funds, educate policymakers, and pitch your local media. And how you're going to do it is you're going to snap a photo of you and your community with a bed net doing one of the things that we've been talking about. Holding an in-district advocacy meeting with your member of Congress, having an event that raises funds to fight malaria, or working to raise awareness through the local media. So win, 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 win. This is a challenge. Prizes will be awarded to the best photos in each category. So get those selfies ready, everybody. You can go to the website on that page there and sign up. Or if you'd like the more information, like I said, I'd be happy to send you the flyers that we just hot off the presses got today. So I quick edited my presentation here for you. Another thing that we just found out about today, and I can absolutely send you this registration form, is the Detroit Pistons game, Friday, April 8th. So I apologize for those who are going on the cruise, like myself, for our year-end convention. We're going to be on the boat. But if you are in Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Ohio, any of the Wisconsin, any of those areas where you could get to Detroit for the weekend, the Detroit Pistons are doing $10 from every ticket purchased will go to get a bed net to families in Africa. First 200 people to purchase the tickets for the game get to participate in an exclusive post-game chalk talk with two of these players from the Detroit Pistons. Both these guys are awesome, and they love the Nothing But Nets program. They love doing things in the Detroit community, and they are great active citizens. So again, if you want to have more information about that, or are friends with somebody who's not on the call but lives in that state or in that area, let me know, and I'd be happy to send them the information as well. So we are almost to our time, or after over our time, sorry about that. Just a couple of things that I want you to remember. We are members of JCI, and as JCs, we create positive change. Every time you talk about Nothing But Nets, you discuss JCI, your chapter, and why you are a member. The appointments that get us in the door may start with Nothing But Nets, but make sure you always talk about JCI. And truly, if we all get on board and find your own personal reason of why you want this to be important to you, and absolutely take advantage of the opportunity of this program and being involved in it, because we have made great strides in helping to reduce the number of deaths. We can absolutely eradicate this disease within our generation when we all work together. So, are there any questions? Not sure if you can type them in or not. And my email doesn't look like I have any questions. So, again, my name is Tracy. I am from Wisconsin, and I am your current program manager for the Nothing But Nets program. The email address to send me an email for any information or questions or assistance you might need is nothingbutnets@usjcs.org. So thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. and send me those questions if you have any. But most of all, have a great night and continue to make your voice heard. Thank you and good evening.